Streaming. I think we're here. I think we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Poker Life podcast, aka Poker Life. I don't have a name, honestly. I feel like I need a name for this, Assani. But we're at the Poker Life podcast, DFS week here. Today, we're joined by someone who's actually been on the podcast before, a young gentleman who changed my life forever with one invitation to the Playboy Mansion party in June. A man who is debatably one of the best DFS players in the world right now. A man who I enjoy talking to. We got my buddy Assani Fisher in the house today. What's up, puppy? Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Joey. And you know you're coming back to the next Playboy Mansion with me.
Come on, man. Really? I didn't get my life in enough trouble last time I went with you.
Trouble? You almost got married from what you told me.
It's pretty damn close. Let's be honest with you, man. But yeah, guys, if you're watching this today, I thank you for tuning in. If you're from the DFS world, welcome to the podcast. This week we've had on Sal Hill-Sud, aka Max Sidori, on Monday. We had Ryan Dodd on yesterday, and we got Jonathan Bales tomorrow, Adam Leviton Friday, and then Evan Silva. We rescheduled that one for next week sometime, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. I'm not sure the exact date. And yeah, we're live streaming this. If you have any questions, let me know. Someone in the chat, let me know if the sound is in line, because I just want to make sure the sound for the first one was a little bit off kilter a little bit. So I just want to make sure this one's good. But yeah, man, Assani, let's get into it. So you're back on the podcast. For those that don't know, Assani plays some of the highest stakes of DFS. What's your main game, Assani? Basketball, NFL? What is it? Both?
DFS-wise, I got into it as an NBA specialist, but I've kind of branched out and would actually say it's not even one of my strongest sports anymore.
What's your strongest sport?
I mean, football, just because the competition. Football is my highest ROI, just because the competition is the softest in that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so plays NFL, plays NBA. No, he plays a couple other sports, but he's a former poker player. He's an old school poker player, played poker back in the day. Now he's actually a fun player. Spotted him at this year's World Series of Poker, gambling it up, having a gay old time, just drinking back a couple margaritas, drinking some Coronas, and just gambling, man. It was you have a fun summer, Assani, in Vegas there, buddy.
Poker's so much more fun when you're not stressed out from the grind of doing it professionally. Mm-hmm. I pretty much late regged every event I played and just tried to go in and have a good time and like enjoy, playing with pros and the table dynamics, and actually did decent. Had like 220 seconds, which is like good but frustrating because you miss out on the real cash, mm-hmm. And then cash the main as well.
You cash the main? What kind of animal are you, dude?
Yeah, man. It's funny how it works. You stop caring, and then you start winning.
Look at you, man, sitting in the fucking... Did you win a lot of money this week? Look how you're sitting on this couch, man. You're just like, oh, you're just a man over here right now, but look at you, man.
Yeah, I'm comfy, man. I'm recovering after a tough week of partying.
So what happened this weekend? You had a live final up in Toronto?
Yeah. DraftKings always top-notch with their live events. They had their MLB live final in Toronto, mm-hmm. and then I stayed up for an extra few days just to visit some friends.
I'm going to flip this camera. We are live, guys. I'm going to flip this camera around because I'm trying to... I changed my webcam. I didn't like my one yesterday. And watch this. But bam, now I'm looking at Assani. This is great. Oh, my God. This is awesome. You're not going to be able to see this, Assani, but the people...
Nothing changed from my perspective. Just
yeah,
now.
The fans at home will be able to see this, yeah. But yeah, I think I saw the podcast were shared over on the Roto Grinders forum. I don't go too much on there, but it seems like people from the DFS community are enjoying the podcast week so far. They did comment, I saw you guys commented that the Dot podcast was long. Yeah, we got a little carried away, I'll be honest. I like Ryan, he's my friend, so we talked for a little bit long. It was long, but you can always stop it at the end. But I do understand, the DFS, it's like a new viewers this week, and the pod yesterday was like 3 hours. We just got into it, man. We were talking, we were having a good time, so... But I know a lot of new people to the podcast see like 3 hours and they're like, it is pretty fucking long. So I can understand that. But yeah.
I had noticed the same thing with my video blogs where all the people who aren't hardcore DFS fans, their feedback is always, oh, that's too long. No one wants to sit there and listen for an hour. But then all the hardcores are the exact opposite. They want as much content as you can churn out. So it's a weird balance.
No, they're awesome. Keep them long, kid. I remember when I was dating that girl, I used to drive home and I would just listen to them. Like the perfect length for the drive home. when I dated a girl that lived like 45 minutes from me, and I was like, oh man, these are great. But I've realized how hard they are to listen to. Unless, like, if you're watching them just on YouTube, they're really, really hard sometimes to listen to on your phone, because they'll just have playback errors and stuff like that. And once I watched that, I was like, I need to upload all my stuff to iTunes faster, because I know how pissed people must get watching my podcast on YouTube instead of just listening to it on iTunes. So then I started putting mine on iTunes in a more reasonable manner because of your podcast. It showed me that this is not good.
Is iTunes? Tell me what I need to do. I was on a flight today, and there was no internet on the flight. And I wish I had downloaded your podcast with Ryan, because I checked out the Sahil one. I didn't have time to check out Ryan's yesterday. Mm-hmm. Is it go on iTunes and then just download it, and you can listen to it after that without Wi-Fi access?
Yeah. So if you have like the podcast app, or if you have another podcatcher, you can just download it and then listen to it anytime. So it's permanently on your phone until you delete it. Yeah. So it's pretty sweet.
We'll know that for next time.
Yeah. Jeremy said, it was a good pod, it just wasn't on DFS. It turns out, guys, most of my podcasts aren't normally on poker, or they're not normally on what they're on. It's kind of a mixture of things. I like to put things together, and it never just is one thing. I just feel like talking about one thing all the time would be pretty fucking boring. And I think there's enough podcasts out there that focus on just one thing. And I like to talk about a bunch of different things. So Sonny, let's get into it with you, man. NFL's coming up here. How you feeling, Poppy?
NFL's far and away the most exciting time of the year for DFS pros. I basically don't go to sleep Saturday nights, just work through the night, and it's pretty hardcore. I'm excited for it.
Are you? What's the plan this year? Are you gonna be playing all the highest stakes you can, or what are you kind of thinking going into things here?
Probably similar to what I did see, like the beginning of the Ryan podcast, and I saw he said where he doesn't play 5 or 10Ks because you can get so much action at lower stakes. I'll probably follow in his footsteps there and just get a bunch of action down in tournaments and all the small contests. Don't think at least I don't intend to do any super high stakes battling. If I do, it'll probably be on the smaller, like 3-game slates where I just can't get more than 10K in action. So it's like, oh, Sahil's sitting here, and I can turn this 5K into action into a lot more than that. So let's do that.
I love it. Yeah, I remember when Sahil was on the podcast on Monday, he talked about you guys had a conversation at the DraftKings final in Toronto, and you told him that you didn't intend to play him anymore. And I said, I don't think there's a possible chance that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I did say that, and I was being truthful, but like, you're probably right. I like your response to him saying that. You're just like, no, I know Assani. He's saying that now. Give it like a week, and then he'll be back. See, here's the thing, though. I've talked for a long time about how high stakes can't be profitable long term, and it has to die out eventually because they don't lower the rake percentage once you get past the $500 level on DraftKings, and that's just absurd. Like, anyone who comes from the poker world, like, imagine they just didn't lower the rake percentage as you got into the nosebleed stakes. You'd be paying a ridiculous amount at the high stakes. No one could beat the games, and that's kind of how it is. But I just keep paying the rake anyway, so why would they give a fucking lower it? Because they have me to play it. So I need to, in order to actually influence them to make the changes I want, I kind of need to stop playing. So we'll see.
I guess that makes sense. Can you lower your audio a little bit on your side?
Yeah, what I do? Just literally my button?
Yeah, I think, just hear a little bit of feedback from you on my end.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I want to ask you something, because I posted this on the forums. I'm having DFS week, and so there's this a couple comments, and I've read this on Roto Grinders before too. They kind of say that you high stakes guys, I don't agree with this comment, by the way, but I can understand where people are coming from. They say guys like you, or guys like Ryan, or guys like Sahil are everything that's wrong with the DFS world. What do you think about that? I read that, and someone else agreed.
Can you expand upon that criticism a little bit, or
he said everything that's wrong. It's like a big scam. These guys are greedy. These guys are this. These guys are that. And a couple people actually agreed. And not new accounts on 2+2 specifically. So I was like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what exactly are they? Have they been? What are you talking about? Why are you guys everything that's wrong with DFS sort of thing? I don't like.
I think what happened, I think nobody expected the top pros to be able to make as much as they could right away. But because so many people had already been through poker, that it was quite easy, and the top pros dominated for a few years, and we were in a boom age, similar to like the poker boom, where just people were making money left and right, and it was almost too easy. And so yeah, that had a lot of blowback where people just weren't happy, specifically when I had a big issue where there was another pro, Rhea Hope, who called me out for playing low stakes contests while I also sat high stakes contests. My thoughts on the matter have always been, I'll be perfectly honest and upfront with everything I do. If you guys think I'm doing something wrong, tell me, and I'll honestly consider your viewpoints. And if the sites make any changes, I'll totally obey by the rules they make. But I'm not going to turn down what amounts to literally tens of thousands of dollars, because that's the other thing, like the low stakes, it might be only a $1 or $2 heads up or something, but I made like $20K off that in a year or something. You play so many, you can't just like turn down $20K. You know what I mean? That's just too much money. Yeah, that's pretty much mine. And give me more specific criticism than just ruining all that's wrong with DFS.
Let me read from this comment. And this guy's kind of ridiculous. Sure. But three guys agreed with it, and I mean I'm a little taken aback, because I'm like, I understand like Sal has the incident, the whole like the big scripting thing, and some people just you never forget about that, and that's this big major issue with a lot of people have. And then let me read the comment. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is pretty much a smorgasbord of DFS pros that are literally everything wrong with DFS today. Sahil, Ryan, and Assani. Three guys trying to ruin the DFS ecosystem by skirting rules. The very ones who also help bring the industry to its knees in warp speed. A list of DFS scumbags right here. That's the only reason I'm interested. Love hearing these people justify their scummy greed. No, it's like a pretty trolly comment, but a couple other guys that aren't new posters like agreed with that. I was like, wait, so like it's just news.
I know you have mostly poker fans that watch your show. To give an analogy that I think is pretty apt, it's somewhat similar to like stalling in poker tournaments. It's the sort of thing where once people find out something's plus EV, they're simply going to do it. And you can't expect just people to, be deep in the main event of the World Series of Poker and be like, hey, I have a moral, obligation to not stall, so let me turn down these $1,000 in equity to fulfill that moral obligation. The responsibility is always on the sites. And our job as professional DFS players, poker players, professional game theory experts, our job is to find out how within the rules you can maximize your EV. And I'm not apologetic for doing that, especially because I'm willing to be honest about everything I've ever done. And like I said, if there's ever any gray area or area where I actually cross the rules and the sites tell me about it, I'll stop doing it immediately.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I obviously, like, on one hand, it's sort of something where if you guys weren't doing it, someone else would do it. And I'm not even sure what exactly a lot of people are referring to as like what they're angry about, whether it's sitting low stakes contest or I'm not really like what else exactly are you doing that people might be upset about?
The only thing that I specifically do was the low stakes thing. The other issues are like scripting or the use of computer algorithms, which I don't use at all.
Right.
Or I know like Ryan and Make It Rain had the thing in the golf tournament where they basically worked. They had knowledge of each other's lineups or enough knowledge of the price they were saving that it allowed them to avoid overlap. All of which are gray areas and deserve to be discussed. I just don't think you shouldn't begin the conversation by like calling the high stakes pros a bunch of jackasses for doing it. You should begin the conversation by being like, let's have an actual talk about this and get to the bottom of it. I think Sahil, Ryan, myself, we're all upfront and honest about all this. Transparency is that's all you can really ask out of someone.
That makes sense. I mean, it's not like there are this is kind of like common things, right? Common things that happen in the industry amongst, high stakes regulars, sit low stakes, and people are doing things that you guys are more visible because you guys, I guess, are considered some of the best or at the highest stakes, but I feel like these things are things that probably go on amongst a number of different people.
Absolutely. It's one of those weird things where, like I said, I think transparency and total honesty is the most important thing. But once you do that, like once I came forth and started arguing back against Rhea Hope about the low stakes things, I became the face of like that argument, and everyone who had a problem with it wanted to like attack me for it, as opposed to the 20 other pros who were doing the same exact thing.
No, that definitely makes sense. I think I saw something interesting on Twitter today. There was I just found out Ryan mentioned one of the other teams, the Big Papa Gates and Chipotle Addict. They're brothers, I suppose, right?
Yeah.
And I saw there was some discussion going on amongst those two, sitting 3-man contest, and then sometimes unregistering, or if a regular sits and only taking fun player action. I'm assuming if that was to sit. So I don't know much about this, but have you followed this at all, or is this something to your knowledge that you've seen happen?
I have not followed that. I think if 2 players work as a team, they absolutely cannot play a 3-man contest together. That gives such an advantage that the other player just has the best player in the world can't beat 2 average players who are working together in a 3-man. It's just that big of an edge.
I was thinking about that. So they're obviously not going to have the same lineup, but how can you do that? Where, I mean, I guess you're giving away too much strategy if you actually talk about how that gives the person the edge. But that's
fine. So in a 3-man ownership percentage is in winner take all format, which a 3-man is. Ownership percentage matters for everything. So imagine we're playing football, and there are 2 quarterbacks ranked like exactly the same value-wise, and they're the 2 best options by far. If 2 people are on one of them and one's on the other, the guy who's on one of them wins quite a bit of EV in that exchange by being the sole person on an equally valued quarterback. Does that make sense? And so you can essentially make sure that you don't have overlap with the other person's lineup. You know. I might have explained that poorly. Does that make sense? Basically,
a little bit.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking about. So I saw people were upset about this. Obviously, it makes sense, especially if they're unregistering. If a regular sits and then if they play when a fun player, I mean, that's kind of fucked up, dude. Like 2 guys are sharing information. They know each other's lineups. They potentially may be sharing bankrolls, and I'm not sure if any of that's true or if that's something that isn't taking place. But the thing is, and I'm sure these guys are more well known, so you know when it's happening. But I'm sure these things are happening on a smaller scale as well too. And I saw some interesting ideas of something where, maybe treat it like a Zoom pool on PokerStop, where they have Zoom where you register and then you're randomly matched up with different matchups rather than having a choice of situation. But I can understand game selection is pretty important. So
sure, how I look at it is that there are a lot of gray areas in DFS simply because the sites couldn't have predicted all the strategy nuances that would come about, and they didn't already have rules in place. And what we need going forward are 2 things. One, we need members of the community who are policing it, who are, calling people out for stuff and making message board posts. And the second thing we need is high stakes pros who will be totally open and honest about it. And in my opinion, those 2 groups should be working together. It shouldn't be like a fight against each other. And what we have now is just so much. I'm the only high stakes pro who will go on Roto-Grinders and actually defend myself against this. Everyone else just hates dealing with them because they're so antagonistic about it. And like a lot of the leading voices in the community are anonymous. They just post behind a screen name, and they just kind of treat you shitty. They don't, how people are on the internet when they have the anonymous nature of it. I just think it should be more a teamwork thing. I want to work with the people in the Roto-Grinders community who like want to call out the pros and like see the truth behind what they're doing. I want to work with them and it be a team to get like all those gray areas ironed out. Whereas it feels like you're being attacked every time I go on there almost, and that's just. I can understand why I'm the only one who still does it because it's quite frustrating at times.
Yeah, I can definitely understand both points of view. I think the people who are maybe not winning players or they're struggling to win, they see these guys playing the highest stakes. They see these guys maybe what they perceive to be taking advantage of things or being unethical, and maybe they don't want to do that. They don't want to be that type of player, be that type of person for whatever reason, and then they decide to put their anger towards you or put their anger towards other high stakes pros who they think are doing something wrong. So it definitely makes sense. I mean, a lot of those guys, you can't really rationalize with them, and they're just going to be against you.
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much agree.
I don't know. DFS world, man. It seems so simple, but I mean, I guess in all these industries, there's always some things that are taking place, right? There's always edges to be had, and the people that find the edges first, they seem to, especially when they're doing really well, they seem to be hated upon by certain players, but other players are like, oh shit, I like that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's the job of a game theory professional is to look at the rules of a given contest and be like, this is the way to maximize my EV in this. I think a lot of the debates I see, people talk about like what they like in content, like single entry versus multi-entry is a big hot topic in the DFS world. A lot of amateurs really want to play single entry only, so you can't have these pros with 100 entries. And the way I've always looked at it is, who gives a fuck what I like? My job is to say, oh, this is the rules of this contest. Cool, let's find out how to maximize my EV under those rules. Oh, this contest has a different rules? Let's find out how to maximize my EV under those rules. I don't really worry about like what I enjoy or what I, uh, think, best showcases who the actual best is or anything like that.
You can see how some people might not like that, right? They have this romantic idea of what the DFS world could be and how fun it could be for all the players out there and how it could be fair and et cetera, and so forth. And when they hear someone say something like that, I can understand how they might not like that, not like to hear that or like someone to say that.
Sure, I mean, we all want soft. It's basically just whining. They just want soft games. Like, I don't.
Yes, honey. They want soft fucking games, of course. Like, haven't you seen in poker? Yeah, of course they want soft games. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. I get the impression that a lot of the people complaining, if I didn't, a lot of people who are doing like are the most vocal. They, for example, on the $1 and $2 heads ups, they wanted me out of there so that they could come in and beat up all the fish. It wasn't this like super noble cause where they wanted the fish to be able to survive. It's one of those sort of things where I'm almost positive the people being the most vocal are just wanted to be able to be they wanted to be the high stakes pros themselves and couldn't do it, and then they just like spent all this energy on complaining about it now.
Jeremy makes a good point. He says, I think if people would spend as much time on their own DFS development as they do on worrying about who may be cheating them, they may be better players.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot. Like, you look at some of the guys posting on Roto Grinders, they must spend like 15 to 20 hours per week focused on this topic of like catching the pros or like, and I mean, I guess if you get enjoyment out of that, go for it. But like, couldn't you just spend that time on getting better DFS, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of the guys always on 2+2 and poker forums, and they're always complaining about how, man, the games are so hard. Holy fuck, there's this, there's that, there's this, there's that. And it's just like, dude, if you just like stop fucking complaining, it is what it is. The situation's what the situation is. Go put the work in. Go put the hours in. Focus on getting better. And if you got to make less money, if you're a professional, well, you got to make less money. That's just how things go. Things evolve. You need to figure out how to evolve with it. And if you just spend your time complaining and not actually trying to get better, I mean, it's like wasted energy. You're wasting energy a lot of times worrying about this when you can't really do nothing about it. You just got to worry about trying to do the best you can.
There's definitely a balance to be had, I think. I think, and I guess, yeah, I'm commenting that too many of the people, I think, are just spending way too much time on these issues and essentially just calling out high-stakes pros for any little thing they can possibly think of, much of which turns out to have no merit whatsoever. So, like, for example, I forget the guy's name, the guy Ryan mentioned, who's like always posting on Roto Grinders.
Listen,
like
I think he started the thread about my podcast, so I got to give him a shout out, man. Hold on, let me let me get his name. I got to give him a shout out. I mean, he did put the pod in.
You should put him on the podcast. I would like to actually force him to put his like real world persona out there and not like hide behind an internet username.
You think he'd come on the podcast? Let me make sure.
I do not think he would, but I think it would be interesting.
Why wouldn't he want to come on? He seems like a pretty vocal guy about different issues happening in the DFS world.
Maybe he would. I'm guessing a little bit here, but I think he is a typical internet troll who enjoys being anonymous because he can treat people however he wants with no repercussion.
You talking about MPHST18? Is that the guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, so he's constantly involved in debates with pros who are, everyone knows who they are, and they have like real world, shit at stake in these conversations, and he's just like, he's not a real person, because you know what I mean? Like, he could just like never post again on Road Grinders, and no one would ever know who he actually was.
Well, shout out to him, man. He says some. I mean, he didn't just, he said that Dot makes some good points in his comment that he made, and I believe he said. He did say Sahil is definitely lying about. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, he said some good things about Ryan. Okay, so hey, shout out to him, man.
The issue is that the reason I think this is worthwhile to actually like address this is because the role he is trying to fill is a very necessary role. We need people in the community who are looking after the greater good of the games and making sure cheating isn't going on. But the people who are doing it have to be objective and can't just be. So, for example, a week ago or whatever, I posted in some thread, and he kind of out of nowhere made some accusation against me about mass multi-entering the $250 entry tournament. He was like, and I replied to him. I was like, I actually don't do that at all. Like, you're just completely wrong about that. That's an interesting topic about pros, mass multi-entering that, but I don't do it at all. And his response was not, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't, mean to call you out for that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was totally wrong." He just ignores it and then jumps to the next thing which he can accuse me of. And it's like, when you throw out enough accusations with no merit, it kind of it's boy who cried wolf syndrome, where like people just stop listening to you after a while.
Well, shit, man. Shout out to him. He wants to come on the podcast. Fuck it, man. We'll get him on the pod. Why not, man? Listen, man. Why not? If Assani says he should come on the pod, I'm willing to get him on the pod, man. Why not? All right, we talked about that issue. I just wanted to get that out of the way first. I was building the theatrics up there with that topic. I wanted to fire out the gate with that one. Wanted to appease some of these guys leaving some of these comments here. That way they stop getting upset, man. So what else have you been doing since we talked to you last? We had you on the pod. I think it was in April. How's DFS been going? You been playing a lot of baseball, golf, or what have you been focusing on?
A lot of baseball tournaments. As you know, I was in Vegas the whole summer playing the World Series of Poker. Been doing some traveling. Taking up guitar. I've always played guitar growing up, but I bought a new guitar and I've started playing guitar again. Yeah. Oh, I see that back there. All right.
Chilling, yeah, next to the keyboard. Yeah. What about the yoga, Poppy? Did you get that? You find a regular... Listen, me and Assani were talking some yoga strategy a couple weeks ago about finding a proper yoga studio, because he lives in San Diego, and it's basically the king of yoga is in San Diego. It's amazing out there.
Yeah, I've been to 2 places, didn't settle on one yet, but definitely intend to get on the yoga grind full-time pretty soon.
Think about how that could open up your mind and soul and make you feel relaxed as you're picking your lineups Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Okay, we talked about this. Do you think Adderall could help you at DFS?
I've never done Adderall in my life. I'm the worst person to ask. I've done quite a few drugs. Adderall is not one of them.
I think I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and we were talking about Adderall. Obviously, at poker, it very helpful. But at DFS, I wonder how much it has to, because it would have to help you, because it can help to enhance your focus when you're. I mean, maybe especially if you're going over numbers, or if you're looking at.
So when you say it's helpful at poker, what specifically, or like how? Like I said, I don't know it. How does your mind change when you're on it?
I mean, you're just like honed in. You're focused. You're making extremely good decisions. You don't really falter off your A minus game. You don't really get tilted too much. And yeah, it's. Listen, I don't want to make Adderall seem like this glorious fucking thing, because it certainly can be an addictive thing no matter what the doctors tell you. But yeah, I wonder if people use it at DFS. I mean, I think it just makes sense. It would make sense. It helps you focus.
Yeah, I've always been a little scared of prescription drugs, so I've just stayed away. But yeah, it seems like it could be quite useful. Yeah,
I would recommend anyone out there just listen to that. Please don't try it, man. It's like once you try it, you don't want to stop trying it, and it's definitely it's definitely not very good. Do you feel like your DFS results have been slipping a little bit, because before you were, for a while you were all in on DFS? It seemed like most of your time was being spent with DFS. And now these past couple of months, you did poker, you've been traveling a lot, you've been doing some other things. Do you feel like your focus or your results have suffered because of that, or do you feel like you've been able to maintain at your normal pace?
I definitely was more motivated when I was broke and needed to make a bunch of money. Aaron Jones calls it too much money syndrome. When you have too much and you get this fuck it attitude where you don't feel like obligated to work as hard anymore. I'm not quite. I would say I've definitely fallen off, specifically in NBA. I think when I was coming up, when I was coming up the ranks, I told pretty much everyone and anyone that I'm the best at NBA. I'll take on anyone, let's battle. And I think I've clearly fallen behind the top group of players. But like I've worked with Aaron Jones on it, and I think he is in the top group of players. And so I know pretty much what it would take. It's just a matter of putting in the work, and do I really want to grind that hard now? And I think I might just be a tournament player going forward.
Assani, this goes back to something we talked about in the first time you were on the podcast, which is this is kind of maybe what happened at poker for you too, is when you were very motivated, and then once you started doing well, you kind of, maybe you got a little bit complacent, and then the poker fucking boom dies off, and then you're like, well, maybe I should have worked harder during that time period. You feel like this could be a time where you might feel that way in the future?
The battle between working hard and life balance is just a constant fucking struggle for me. I don't know how. Yeah, I mean, no. I very much could imagine that, but at the same time, I could imagine like being a 70-year-old man, like thinking that I didn't enjoy life because I was working my whole life. I don't want to. I've seen plenty of old men in poker rooms who have clearly been doing that the last 40 years, and that doesn't seem like a very glamorous lifestyle to me.
What if it's something where DFS is as profitable as it is for maybe 1 to 2 more years, and it's something where you put in those 2 hard years and maximize your potential, and then when those 2 years are up, or 3 years are up, or whatever, then you put yourself in this position where you might not have to worry about finding the next DFS or finding the next whatever, because you'll put that work in for this period of time?
That's a totally fair point, but is like, I kind of feel like I've spent the last 4 or 5 years of my life, locked in a basement, grinding online poker, grinding DFS. I'm 33 years old. I'm still single. I want to get out there and do shit with my life too, But yeah, I can totally understand that. And trust me, that's what keeps this such a constant battle for me.
How much money you fucking won, man? God damn, kid. Living this life now, man. You must have had been doing pretty well here, Poppy.
I had a piece of Aaron when he won, and yeah, that was helpful. And yeah, it's gone well.
That's awesome, man. I mean, yeah, I understand. I'm someone that puts a lot of hours in, puts a lot of work in, but I also like to put a lot of hours in terms of the life stuff too. So it's certainly a balance that's, you're always sort of chasing after to figure out exactly what the, proper fun to grind ratio should be.
Yeah, I also just don't feel like I'm very envious of the people who can put in 8 hours of DFS or poker and then go out to the bars and be real social. I put in 8 hours of DFS and I just want to go sit by myself and smoke weed and then go to bed. It's like a off-on switch for me where I can go out and be social, or I can stay in and grind DFS. Having one day with both those combined, which is kind of what the live finals kind of are, which is a very unique experience because you have the most money on the line, usually if you ever had, and then you're also being force-fed all these free drinks and having this crazy shit go on, and it's just, yeah, it's a shit show.
Boob says, didn't Assani win $200,000 in the baseball tourney a couple days ago?
I had 6 entries, which I believe the equity of that is $25K per entry, so $150K, and I ended up cashing for $160K. So I made $10K more than expected. It's a good result. Got 5th total. It was a bit frustrating in that one of my guys on my best team, he took 1 at bat and then left with a fucking tummy ache, or he got sick or something. I'm come on, how can you're too sick to swing a bat? I don't know. So yeah, that was a bit frustrating that my best team had that, but overall it was I won more than I was expected to win, so I'm happy.
Where was this live final at up there? Where'd they have it at?
They had it at Les Germain, I think I'm pronouncing that right, hotel, which was literally right in the middle of downtown Toronto. Really cool location, walking distance of Blue Jay Stadium and all the major touristy things you'd want to see. DraftKings does their live events just super well.
Do they bust in hundreds of girls?
They do not.
Well, can we just go over the story because you were actually there and I mentioned this on the podcast before, but
Sure.
I actually want to just talk. Let's give a trip report of the story of the Playboy Mansion thing because
I'm going to pour myself a second glass of wine for this story.
yeah, you're in need of this one, puppy. Go ahead. Let me give some shout outs. Who we got out there? Jay Nandez says doesn't want to put in the work anymore. Turns into a tournament player. Sounds like the poker world. Shout out to Jay Nandez. Jay Spasno, what's up, buddy? Welcome back. Diego Rodriguez, Cody Contrell, puppy. What's up, my buddy Gus Pasquale? MHPST18, what's up, brother? The point was he shouldn't be playing the quarter arcade regardless if it's max entry or one entry. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point and an interesting discussion. The point I was making was that he accused me of something that I was flat out false. And if you want to take the role of ambassador of the DFS world, then when you make false accusations, you have to be like, oh shit, I'm sorry, that was a bad accusation. Let me instead focus on what's right. You can't just shrug it off like, oh, whatever, I made a false accusation, no big deal. You have to actually try to be impartial and balanced. You can't just sling a bunch of shit at the wall and hope some of it sticks.
You understand that?
Yeah, I think I could totally. I think he started another thread about pros entering the low stakes, and I posted in the thread. I said I absolutely agree. I don't think pros should be allowed to play the quarter arcade. I think the quarter level is such a low stakes contest that we should give, and especially because a lot of the low stakes players, a lot of their complaints is that they can't put in multiple lineups like the pros can. Well, what's better than this quarter arcade where someone who doesn't have who's never been able to put in multiple lineups can put in 100 lineups for $25 and you can see what it's like. So that I like the idea of that being pro free.
So what's the difference between a quarter and a dollar then? Where do you draw the line? Why is a quarter okay? A dollar is not okay though.
It's all arbitrary. I mean, right. You got to draw the line somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there shouldn't be a line if the dollar's not the line. Well, I don't know why a quarter would be the line either. Why not? It doesn't make it. It does seem like I can understand. Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I come from poker, so I you get where you get your edges at, man. It kind of is what it is, a situation like that, but I can see it from the fun player perspective too. So
let me reiterate that because the buy-in amount is so low, because it's $1. When people hear that, they have a tendency to think, oh, $1, that's nothing. Pros are making $10,000 to $20,000 per year off those dollar contests. So you're not asking them to just sacrifice $1. You're asking them to sacrifice a ton of money. They really do add up, and it ends up being higher stakes than it sounds when you just call it a dollar contest, if that makes sense.
No, it does. Definitely makes sense. All right, let's get into this story. So, Playboy Mansion Party. The day that changed my life forever. So, tell people what it's like to go to a Playboy Mansion party, Assani.
Well, the FanDuel, I've only been to the FanDuel one. I don't know I assume the other ones are similar.
Are there other ones as well?
Well, I mean, the Playboy Mansion just the Playboy Mansion in general has other parties, is what I'm saying.
Okay, I was like, wait, there's more. Yeah. I'm sure.
But DFS and poker both are, two of the more dorkier industries that you wouldn't expect to interact with a bunch of Playboy models. So I'm not sure how different.
A bunch. You mean 4? But it's it's fine.
Yeah. 4. So it's a crazy dynamic because there's so many different groups of people there. There's all the DFS pros. Then there's their friends who they bring who are on. They're not these dorky guys who the DFS pros. They're much more normal guys, I guess I would say. Then you have the average everyday girls who just got a notification on their Circus app that there was a party going on, and I think we met one girl who works as a nanny. I think I met a girl who works as a teacher. There's average everyday girls who are just as excited to be at oh my god, it's a Playboy Mansion as we are. And then there are the 4 playmates who are trying to have a good time, and they're nice, but they've clearly go to every one of these, and they're just at work and not really enjoying themselves. And then there are the girls who are there. They're the girls who are there basically to take a bunch of selfies of themselves and find the perfect Instagram picture, and are just there for to promote themselves in that type of way. I thought I was bad when like I take a selfie every now and then. You know, you got to look good. Got to take a picture of yourself. I push the button like and hold it down, and then look at the 20 pictures I took and find the best one.
Jesus.
And that takes like 2 to 3 minutes. And when I'm doing that, I feel vain as shit. Going, taking 2 to 3 minutes to pick out a selfie. The girls there would fucking take like. I saw one girl like sitting in the grotto by herself for like an hour just taking pictures. Like, I don't know, man.
A lot of topless girls in that grotto too, man.
Indeed.
A lot of topless girls. So yeah, so we got that. You got the Playboy Mansion has all the cool animals back there. They got the tent set up with the televisions. They got the open bars. They got food, which really isn't being consumed by many people. And then they got the grotto area, man. And let's talk about this grotto. They got the pool and then the legendary grotto inside, which is like heated, and it's. You spend any time in the grotto, Assani?
I do, although the somewhat funny problem I have is I either my glasses get a little too steamed up, so I have to take the glasses off, and now I can't see who I'm talking to in the grotto, which defeats kind of the purpose of being at the Playboy Mansion.
That's definitely true. It's definitely true. Yeah, something lucky happened for us there, man. Something lucky happened for us there. I think one of another person in our group may have met a nice young woman there, nice young friend. And whatever happened with those two? They work out? Was it the nanny?
Sorry?
The nanny, right?
No, or at least I thought you were talking about someone else.
How many?
But no, I don't think it were. I don't think they've kept in touch. Have you kept in touch? Are you getting married soon? I guess that should be the question.
So from your perspective, what do you remember actually happening with that? Because I don't really remember what was happening. I don't remember. All I remember is that I ended up in bathrobes in your hotel room at like 12 a.m. with me and that girl and a bunch of people in that hotel room were in there. So that's all. I don't remember how we got to that point. Like I don't remember leaving the Playboy Mansion. I don't really remember much of that point.
I didn't see any of. You and I were hanging out a bit at the beginning. We met the group of girls that the nanny was in, and we hung out with them, and then you disappeared. I didn't meet that girl until you showed up in bathrobes in my hotel room. That was
my God, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened. I think I was in the grotto for like 2 hours, and we ended up like closing out the grotto. I mean, listen, I get a chance to be in a grotto, with a nice mamacita, a señorita, and like that's a legendary place. You got to make your mark in that grotto, man. It's like who knows what kind of stuff's been happening in that thing. So I took advantage of the situation, and yeah, I still talk to her. Yeah, we're friends. Okay. Yeah, she's cool.
She was on one of the video blogs.
She was on one of my video blogs, yeah. She came to Vegas and visited, yeah. It was fun. She's fun. The moral of the story is that, and I said this before and I got to say it again, you got to get to the Playboy Mansion fucking party, guys. Listen, if I'm ever at the Playboy Mansion again, I'm going to record what it's like to be at the Playboy Mansion DFS party. Like I told FanDuel, I said, listen, give me a camera. I will make the sickest fucking hype video for this thing ever. And everyone will want to go to this thing next year. I promise you. Just give me the chance to do it next time. I want to help you guys out. I want to get more people playing these qualifiers that already play it.
That'd be kind of sick. Could you do like a 30-minute? I know obviously you want to party and have a good time, but could you do like a quick 30-minute podcast while you're there?
I don't know if I can do it live.
Would you not be allowed for some? Like, do they not allow?
Well, I think I could record it. I could record it and then play it back at a later point in time.
Okay.
Like if I just showed my point, obviously like what I do at the Playboy Mansion is going to be different than most DFS guys are going to be doing at the Playboy Mansion. But if I can show it from my perspective, it's crazy there, man. It's like
I think we need a live pod from the Playboy Mansion next time.
I'm in for a live pod from the Playboy. Like I think that's a good idea. Well, I don't see why we can't. We're giving promotion for everybody. It feels like so. Yeah, Gus said Joey almost moved to LA because of her. Yeah. Yeah, it was love. I texted you. I told you I think I was going to marry. So, I mean, I was out of my mind at that point. I think I was like staying at her house and stuff like that.
I believe your exact text was legit 5% chance we get married, was what you told me.
No, well, man, let's move on from that. I don't want to think about that anymore. So what's the plan NFL going up here, man? So you mentioned you're going to play mainly GPPs, a little bit lower stakes heads up. Have you been working on your game at all? Or is there any way that you can really, I guess, improve going into the season, or is it kind of you'll improve as the season goes along this year? I
think I have playing baseball. I only play GPPs, and I don't know the sport of baseball that well. I almost 100% rely upon just the articles I read and friends I talk to, and so I've really been working on general GPP strategy, understanding both the correlation you want to have on your team, on one lineup, and how if you have multiple lineups in a tournament, they might affect each other, and all that sort of thing. I think I'm very prepared for that aspect of things for this year. In terms of like knowing the NFL well and stuff, I just follow other people. You know, the two guys you're going to have on your podcast at the end of the week, football guys, 4 for 4, they're all excellent. And I certainly don't know more than them. So I don't like go out and try to become an expert in NFL. I just try to understand the general game theory aspects of everything. And yeah, I think I'm improving at tournaments in general.
I think Ryan mentioned that he thought you were one of the better tournament players that are around right now in DFS.
Yeah, I mean, I try at it. Yeah, like guys like him, I guess, are just making too much from cash and haven't really, thought about it as much. But I guess so. There's a handful of us that are all in the top tier. It's too difficult to really separate us and say who the best is.
Who falls in the top tier? Is it sport dependent, or do you feel like there are similar players who are the best?
I think Aaron's definitely one of the best. Sahil deserves mention for sure, just because his volume is just out of this world ridiculous. I mean, obviously, I know people will say, "Oh, he just does it because he has computer help." What people don't understand is that computer programming is really fucking hard. Like, I'm impressed by people who are experts in that. It's something I really want to learn, and it kind of tilts me when people act as if it's not like you just have a computer program and that's it. Then you just sit back and profit. You build a computer program yourself, not knowing if the input you're giving it is going to give you good outputs, and then you get the output from it, and you have to determine whether or not this is working, and you have to make constant adjustments to it. And it's an incredibly difficult process that I just don't feel gets enough credit. I think it's frustrating to me when people just dismiss stuff that like Sahil does as, oh, he just sits back and lets his computer do all the work. If I had that, I would do that too. Well, no, motherfucker, he built that. He doesn't have that. He built that. And not only did he build it, he must be constantly refining it and double checking everything that's going into it. And that shit's tough, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too, is that, I saw a lot of those comments when I talked about him coming on the podcast, and yeah, I was like, I mean, it can't be that easy, right? If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. If everyone could just use a computer program or use software to make themselves winners, and everyone would be a winning player. He wouldn't be the only person that's doing this. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think a large part of the reason for the edge to be had in DFS is that people don't understand exactly what skill sets are necessary to be great at it, or at least they want it to be a certain way, and it's just not. People want it to be all about their knowledge of a sport, because that sounds really cool and really sexy and really like, if I know basketball really well and my knowledge of basketball enables me to crush DFS, well, that sounds cool. That makes me, I'm an athlete. I know sports. If I just say, oh, I'm a computer programmer and that sounds like, oh, you're a big dork then. You know what I mean? And people don't want it to be that, but that's what works. That's what enables you to play DFS at the highest levels is in part, statistical analysis, and isn't just, this ability to sit back and watch the games and turn an instant profit.
That's a really good point. I imagine most people look at Sahil, they see more like a quiet kind of, numbers kind of guy who's talking about computer program, and then they're like, wait a second, how is this guy beating me at NFL? How does this guy know more than me at NFL? How does he know more than me at MLB? And I feel like that's a good point, because I'm sure people want it to be, I know NFL better than you know it, and
right. So a few years ago, analytics in basketball has really come a long way and gained a lot of notoriety in the past few years. And I am reminded of an argument Charles Barkley took a very vocal stance against analytics. He's, the TNT analyst, used to be a former player. And he went on this long rant that was hilarious, where he was like, these are a bunch of dorks who never got laid in high school. What do they know about basketball and this and that? And the thing is, he just wants it to be one way. He wants his experience in basketball to be the defining characteristic that goes into what makes you good at analyzing basketball, and it's just not that way. It's the dorks have won. Sorry, that's just the way it is. It's data analysis is where it's at when it comes to being able to predict these events.
The dorks have won, huh?
Yeah, sorry to disappoint everyone, but both in poker, it happened in poker too. When poker started, it was all these, cool, the cowboy who just, comes in, sits back, and is a natural card shark versus the math dork. And it's all, if you don't do some math now, you have no hope in poker. It's pretty obvious who won in that argument. And the same thing's going to happen in DFS, and the same thing's going to happen in the real world of sports when it comes to being a general manager and making actual decisions for teams.
You think so? You don't think the field players, the field managers are ever you don't think they're gonna be around? And I feel like they'll always be around. There'll always be former players who don't believe in embracing the world of analytics that'll still be in charge of making decisions in the front offices.
Feel definitely matters. And the thing is, when feel matters, it matters a ton. So, like, for example, if you're playing poker and there's some amateur who's, like, literally just giving his hand away by what he's saying to you, if you're not able to be perceptive of that, then you're missing out on the biggest edge possible. Like feel becomes more important than math in that spot. Or for, like, DFS, for example, Kobe Bryant's last game of this season, if you would have looked at any predictive models, I think he played the Utah Jazz, they would have told you Kobe's not that great of a play this day. But if you actually watch basketball and like, Kobe Bryant's mindset and what that last game meant to him, he shot the ball 50 times that game. I don't know if you realize how much 50 times, like, it was just the greatest play of all time that day, only based on feel. And so it's one of those things where, like, when feel matters, it matters a lot, but there are quantifiable things about the math aspects that you just can't ignore. You can't be a great football coach if you don't know when to go for it on fourth down and when to punt. You have to have some mathematical or data-driven approach to that, or you're sacrificing equity that is quantifiable and proven to exist, and you just can't do that as games get tougher or as the industries evolve.
Adoy in the YouTube chat says, it's crazy how similar this is to trading financial markets with algorithmic programs. 10 years back, I traded in the pits. Now we trade on PC.
Yeah, computers are taking over the world. Just embrace it.
They're going to take over at some point, right? It feels like it's going that way. It's
sooner rather than later. That's I don't know if you're into, like, Ray Kurzweil and the singularity and all that shit. The gist of it is that everything's going to get way crazier from a technological perspective way faster than any of us think. We're just going to be, by the time we're dead, we're going to be, like, living in virtual reality, and shit's just not even going to be recognizable to what life is today.
Really? That's what people are saying? That's what they think?
That's what if you just, like, study how fast technology has grown, that seems to be the pace we're on for. Yeah.
Oof. That's going to be crazy, man. I mean, a computer podcast they might be having. My robot might be doing a podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to, if you have a few hours to kill sometime and just want to have your mind blown, I believe the name of the website is futuretimeline.net. It basically goes year by year into, like, the next 100 years and just gives predictions on what will happen from a technological perspective, from, like, a climate change perspective, from every type of perspective possible. And it's they're guesses on what will happen. They're very educated guesses and based in, scientific literature and stuff like that. And yeah, it's within 20 years, we're just going to be living in a fucking simulation. It's all going to be virtual reality. It's weird.
20 years?
Give or take 10 years, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think so, but we'll see what happens. Let's see.
But that's the main point, is that when you actually talk to people who know what they're talking about, they all concur. They don't agree on when it's going to happen, but they almost all think it's going to happen much sooner than most people think. Mm-hmm. That's the main point, is that we just don't anticipate how crazy shit's really going to get.
Better live it up these next 10 years then, man. God damn. I gotta stop grinding, man. I'm gonna start going out there and I don't know. What do you consider fun right now? What do you have fun doing, Poppy, outside of DFS?
What do I have fun doing? I mean, travel's my main pursuit right now. Obviously, having a bit of financial success allows for that, and that's really the only thing. I haven't made any, I bought one nice guitar. Other than that, I really haven't made any luxurious purchase. I just want to travel a lot. I've gone to, since I was last on the podcast, I went to Hawaii, awesome place, and I went to Banff, Banff. It's a place in Canada. It's the Canadian side of the Rocky Mountains. Probably the most beautiful place I've ever been to in terms of scenery and outdoors.
I've seen pictures. Yeah, you guys went crazy and hiked up some mountain or something like that.
Scariest experience of my life, Joey.
Tell us about what happened. I saw is Dan Smith. He turned around and went home. So I don't that's got to have been pretty fucking scary if he just I'm not doing this, I'm leaving.
Okay, so it's Steven Silverman, Zugwat, well known in the poker world. It was his bachelor party. And, he didn't want to do the typical strip club thing because, for one, we're a bunch of computer dorks and we don't do that shit. And second of all, we've all been to Vegas a bunch and there's just, there's nothing crazier you can do if you've been to Vegas 10 times already. So he was like, let's just go do whitewater rafting, mountain climbing, all this outdoors type stuff. His brother was in charge of the bachelor party. And I'm pretty sure he described it as a hike up a mountain. And so I was thinking it would be climb 10 feet, walk a bit, climb 10 feet, walk a bit. It was fucking you get to the bottom and you're just it's 1,000-foot straight up climb. It's scary shit. I got 20 feet up and it hadn't really set into me. I was handling it fine. I was I'm climbing. And 20 feet up, I looked down and was oh shit, we're getting kind of high up now. And the fear set in, and from that moment forward, I didn't look back down. I literally just looked straight ahead of me. Everyone else in my group, we were split into two groups. Dan and one other guy in the other group turned back and didn't continue. If I had been in their group, I almost certainly would have turned back as well. But I was I suggested to my group, I was hey, are we allowed to stop now? Is it too late? And everyone in my group was it was Timex who goes indoor rock climbing 4 times a week. Mm-hmm. It was Steve's brother Aaron, who was the best by far. A.E. Jones, who was not great, but he was handling it pretty well and wasn't showing any fear. And then Steve's other friend Aaron as well, who was handling it really well. So I was the only one in the group who they were Steve's brother was hanging on by one arm, taking photos and everything, and they were talking about how far they were oh, this looks amazing, look how far up we are and everything. I was literally shaking every time I grabbed for new rock. I didn't enjoy it one bit, not in the slightest. I literally hated every second of it until we reached the top, and I was feeling incredibly accomplished and could then enjoy the scenery. But
so were you guys roped into each other during the climb up, or how are you guys hanging out? How are you guys hanging on the mountain?
So the way it works is you have a belt around your waist, and there's 2 straps that attach from that, and they hook in. And every 10 feet or so, there's a new nail in the wall, or whatever you want to call it, where you take them out and put them on the other side, so that if you fall, you'll only fall 10 feet and then bang into the wall, but you won't die. And the way you remain safe is you only take one out at a time. And as long as you only take one out at a time, there's absolutely no way you can actually fall. So it actually is safe. As long as you remember to not take both out at a time, which you have to be pretty fucking stupid to do because they drill it in your head to not do that, you'll be safe. But there's something when you're thousands of feet in the air, no matter how safe it actually is, you're shaking. And yeah, it was interesting. It's one of those things I'm really glad I did it. I brag about it to everyone I meet. I love showing the pictures and everything. But my God, I did not enjoy it one bit. Not one fucking bit. The scariest part by far, it wasn't even the climb. We did a fourth of the climb, and then they made us walk over this 50-foot bridge, which was maybe 6 feet wide. You could fit both feet on it, but it was a narrow fit. and the bridge was fucking swaying. Like it was legit like swaying back and forth as you're walking over this 50-foot bridge, 1,000 feet in the air.
Not gonna be able to do it now, man. Hell no.
So I was just visiting Aaron in Toronto. They want to buy a place there in Banff. They're set on but they want to buy this fucking mansion in Banff. They're trying to talk me into being a part of this team now. So if we end up doing that, I'll invite you out sometime. Maybe you'll see what it's actually like.
I mean, fuck, man. I'm not trying to go on that swaying bridge, and I'll go up the mountain. I don't want to go on the swaying bridge, though, man. What?
It's a life. Who's
they? Who is they? They made you. Who the fuck is? Who is they?
As far as the house? Or
no, they made you walk across a bridge, you said.
Well, no, you're already 1,000 feet. You can't turn back. That's the thing. You either have to climb, back down, which you can't, no one really does, or you go up and finish. Or, you tell the guy you can't finish and they call a helicopter to come get you.
Call a helicopter to get you out? Okay.
I mean, I'm sure that happens that, people legit or people sprain their ankle and can't go up. I don't know what actually happens, but, yeah, you realize that you have no way out. You just gotta, you're halfway up a mountain. What else are you gonna do?
Ivan said, this sounds like a prep to Puppy. Can we make him become a mountain climber? I would, I actually was thinking about, I researched this to do a prep to climb Mount Everest, but people told me that's too unsafe. So I was like, well, I'm not, I would, if it was more safer, I would do it, but.
This is safe. You will not die doing this, I promise.
Think about it. I want to do something crazy like hike Mount Everest. I'm trying to think of some crazy endurance thing I could do, like a prep that I can make. I
mean, this is seriously the most perfect thing for that then. Yeah.
Wait, this don't sound hard though. I mean, it sounds scary and it doesn't sound hard.
In terms of physical toughness, it's at the end I was tired, but there was no point where I didn't think I could make the climb. I've done indoor climbs that are a little bit easier. But it's definitely I wouldn't advise a total out of shape person to do it either. It was, 4 out of 10 on the physical toughness scale, but a fucking 10 out of 10 on the mental toughness scale. Yeah, if you're not good, I mean, it depends on how good you are with heights. I am not good with heights, and yeah.
I don't know. I guess I got to be honest. I'm not sure I am with heights. I'm not really in many height places very often.
Yeah.
So. Oh, let's see what else we got here. We got a lot of stuff on the list here. I'm going to talk some, let's see what else on the list. Thoughts on, no, I already said that. What a great question I wrote down. How does Sahil do it? That's what I wrote down. Seems to be a common question. How does he do it? I mean, I don't know. How is he so much, how can he do it? I don't know. It seems like a pretty fair question.
He's done a few things. He got in at the absolute right time. He got in 2-3 years before me. He has a computer programming background, and he applied his computer programming background perfectly to DFS from the get-go. He's an insanely bright guy. He obviously that's just something that, is needed for sure. And he's ran well, and I don't mean that as a slight to him, but he's played 2 super high-stakes battles, me and Kandia, and he's up, even if he might have a 5% edge in those, he's beat us both for way more than 5%, so that certainly helps. Although he's ran super bad in live finals, so I guess it kind of balances out.
I can tell you're ready to play him this year. I know you are. I know you're. If you win the first couple weeks, you're definitely going after him for sure.
So I did just looked at the DK lobby when I got home today, and there is a golf slate tonight. It's Euro golf, and I think he's sitting. And there's golf on Friday. So I don't know. I got to ask you. We all know about the podcast Run Good. What happens if we're both on the podcast and then we battle? Conflicting worlds.
This is what Ryan asked me, and I feel like Sahil gets it because he was on first. But I'm not sure if it'd be first or last, though. It's one person's definitely going to get the podcast Run Good. I'm just not sure who it is. And, I don't know. I mean... Maybe Sahil's got a little Fedor in him where he's just, I don't know, he takes the podcast Run Good to the next level. Fedor's been on the podcast the most time and he's ran the best in poker. So I don't know if that's how it works. Maybe you're on twice, so you get to take 2 times advantage of it. Maybe.
I feel like you're kind of playing both sides here where no matter what happens, you can make a podcast Run Good.
I can't even claim this one though, because especially if you guys battle each other, then I can't, I just want to watch. Okay, so here's an idea.
Yes.
couldn't there be something? Couldn't there be a spectator aspect of it, of these high stakes heads up battles, similar to how it was kind of back in the day with on Full Tilt Poker, where everybody watched all the high stakes battles, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing! I got to play this. I got to play poker. I got to get to the high stakes. Couldn't there be some element of that with you versus Sahil, or you versus someone else, or Sahil versus somebody else, where spectators can watch and sweat along, and you guys, I mean, I don't know, maybe they see each other. I don't exactly know how it would work, but what do you think about that idea?
Yeah, people just don't seem to care as much. I don't know, in poker, when someone wins a big tournament, like everyone kind of cares, and like everyone's talking about, like, who won the Sunday Million this week, or if a well-known pro wins the Sunday Million in poker, it's like a big deal, kind of. Everyone hears about it. Just no one really cares about. Everyone's focused on their own thing, kind of, and I guess specifically because if someone wins like a 5K tournament, like the Thunderdome in DFS, people still realize that they can just look at their score, their lineup, and be like, oh yeah, you won the Thunderdome, but if you were in the $3 contest, your score wouldn't have won. Whereas in poker, if someone wins a super high stakes tournament, they played well. They obviously would have crushed like a low stakes too, if that makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't lend itself quite as well. There's not as, you can't sweat along with it, and people just rather watch the games and cheer on their own lineups than cheer on someone else's lineups, I guess. Like people watch poker on TV because they can't be playing poker themselves at that time. But like everyone would rather just put a dollar entry in themselves than like go sweat a pro's lineup,
Makes sense.
Yeah, and we need more rivalries. Like I tried to, when Ray of Hope and I were having the little arguments over that. I wanted to actually play it up. I was like, oh cool, he's like scooping all my shit now because he has a problem with me playing low stakes. Well, let's like talk about this. Let's share results. Let's see how it's going, and let's like but just no one cared. Like honestly, like people care more about the overall points, but they just didn't care about the results of it.
I hear echo. Oh.
Okay.
Go away, echo. Oh boy. Okay.
Good?
Can you hear it? No, it's still there. Nope, it went away now. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, we were talking yesterday about it, and kind of Ryan said a similar thing where the personality is just. I mean, do you think something's really been done to build up personalities in DFS? I guess you have, the guys that have been on ESPN, the guys that are more of the vocal, the guys that do. On the podcast and do strategy and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like there'd be a way to accent the personalities and show that off. And
see, poker came along at the right time. When poker came along, like 2003, people still thought the math dorks were cool. Like if you look back at some of the guys they hyped up in 2003, like Chris Ferguson, for example. He's boring as fuck. Like, what's interesting about him?
He's got that sick hat. He wears the cowboy hat, man.
Okay, but there's like a million guys who just like, Phil Hellmuth. He just complains. Like, there's nothing like, it's not like, oh, what an interesting guy. No, he's just a guy like who whines a lot. There's, now the charade is kind of like people just realize that the guys who succeed at this analytical type of work don't have like super interesting personalities that make for great like reality TV show type stuff. Perhaps it could be done. I don't know. Like I would, if you have any ideas, like I would be I would be willing to, like put a live cam on myself as I sweat something. I just feel like that would be what I feel like one of the. I see a reaction there.
I like that idea, Poppy. I'm liking this idea.
But one of the things that high stakes pros have gotten good at is like not showing emotion and being able to handle the things well. So like. If I have like a major swing and I'm just like sitting there very stoic and calm, like everyone's just going to be like, yeah, that's boring. They want to see you go apeshit and run around the room,
Get a cup of wine and you get some wine in you, man. I know you. I know you're capable of going crazy around the room.
I could play it up a bit, yeah. It's tough specifically because you need to realize that the same people who are going to want to watch that are players themselves. And they're not going to, yes, sweating me might be interesting, but there's no way they're going to rather sweat me than sweat their own lineups. And so like if the MLB slate's coming to a close and there's this last batter up in the bottom of the ninth and everyone wants to see what happens, they're not going to want to see how my team does. They want to see how that affects their own team. So you almost have to have it on a delay or something, which then they would already know the results ahead of time. And yeah, I just don't know how it would really work out.
Listen, I'm going to push this idea to as many people as I can. There's got to be a way to make this, to add some sort of.
Hey, let's do this. You come up with a good format, or any of the viewers out there come up with a good format, and I'll try it out. I'm totally willing.
Speaking of that, what's up with the video blog this year, Poppy? What's been happening, man?
I'm going to get back on it. I've been a bit lazy because there's nothing else. Yeah, it's I wanted to have some fame in the DFS world. I wanted to get my name out there, and I kind of accomplished that. And then I was just like, all right, that's I honestly no. The main thing that makes me want to get back into it is, one, I see guys like you who are doing cool shit, and you keep like updating it and doing. You're not just putting out the same product. You're even as something as simple as having like both people on screen now, or changing the layout, or constantly making improvements. I'm just like, this guy's doing work, and that's inspirational to me. And also, getting positive feedback from people who like the show is very inspirational to me. So those are the two main factors that make me want to keep up with it. But I would just say, in general, the reason I stopped is because I initially started just to get my name out there, and then when I accomplished that, I didn't really have any motivation after that.
Man, I
intend to keep doing it. I absolutely intend to.
I love them. They're the only DFS thing I watch, dude. Come on, like, they're just fun. I don't know. I don't even know why. I'm not even sure why I liked them so much. I feel like it was, I don't know. They're really good. It was like a great mixture of things.
It's the same thing about your show that people like. People like honesty. People don't want, someone sitting here with like a well-rehearsed, bunch of lines. They just want to see you. They want to see you fuck up mid-sentence and not know what to say and stumble over your words and then have to come up with something off the top of your head. People like that aspect of things quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. Ivan says, I want an IQ competition between this guy Assani, Phil Locke, and Scott Seaver. Not me. Come on, I'm not a fan. Come on.
Okay. I don't know Phil Locke that well. Scott Seaver's way smarter than me. Scott Seaver's like a legit genius, I think. And I don't use that word lightly. He might be. Scott Seaver is on the short list of people who might be like the smartest guy I know. And I know like a lot of poker players who are really bright.
Interesting question. I'm going to start asking people that question. I don't know who it would be. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know any. Are there any real smart like guys like that in DFS that stand out?
I mean, all the top guys, obviously, but no, I can't. I would guess the top of the poker world has much because poker's a much tougher game. It's evolved more. There's more strategy nuance to it. But you're going to find more, super genius guys at the top of that game than DFS. Scott, Ike, all those guys are just insanely sauce. They're just like legit. I don't know what the word genius means. It's kind of arbitrary. I don't know, where that line is where you become a genius, but they're the smartest guys I've ever met. That's for sure.
Do you got any fun Vegas stories from this summer that stand out above the others?
No, I mean, like I went to party-wise. I went to EDC and had a good time. It was my first EDC ever. But after that, it was just I was on the grind, and I didn't like I was saying earlier about being non-social while I do. While I'm on the poker DFS grind, it was just mostly playing a bunch of events. I sat next to Phil Hellmuth in the main event. If you want a poker story, like that was a bunch of like interesting poker stuff like that. But as far as like partying or like degen Viffer-esque stories, I can't really contribute much.
You didn't accidentally end up doing meth and stay awake for 5 days? You sure?
Not quite.
That motherfucker, man, he's crazy. That guy's awesome, man. I like that was a great one, man. That was
EDC was awesome. That was my craziest experience. But even that, I don't have like any crazy tale to tell really.
How did you like EDC, the Electric Daisy Carnival?
It was my first one. I'll definitely be back. I only went for 1 day, so I didn't really get the whole experience. I'm all about the festivals though. I missed out on Burning Man. It's going on now because I was in Toronto and just didn't have time. But yeah, I'm all about the festivals these days. Which
day did you go on for EDC?
The last day.
Yeah, Sunday. I went Sunday at like midnight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was shocked at just how cool everyone was. I thought because, I don't know, it's just like 100,000 people partying, and a lot of people are drinking. I thought everyone was just. I thought there would be more like douchey Vegas club type atmosphere, and it's literally like you walk by a group of people and everyone just wants to give you a high five, or obviously everyone's on Molly or feeling the love because of that.
Maybe, listen, that's against terms of service. I'm sure no way. But to be fair, I feel like 80% of people are on drugs there. But I think you find that because EDC is like the biggest festival in the United States, and to get to EDC, you actually have to travel. So you don't just happen to be in Vegas and be like, oh, look, let's go to EDC. Most of those guys are just going to go to the clubs. The douchey guys, they're just going to go to the nightclubs because they don't want to fucking go to EDC. It takes an hour to get there. It takes an hour to get home. It goes till 5, 6 a.m. So what you find is that the people that come to Vegas come from Florida, they come from New York, they come from Maine, they come from Europe, they come from all these different places. They don't go there to like start fucking fights and like hit people or like knock people around. They go there to have a great time. And that's kind of what I found at Tomorrowland. That's one in Belgium. When you go there, you gotta like go to this place. It's an hour away from Brussels, which is like the capital, one of the biggest cities in Belgium. So there, everyone's awesome. Everyone's really, really great. And what you kind of find if you go to someplace like Ultra Music Festival, which is in Miami, it's right in downtown Miami. What you're going to find is that not quite the same type of people at EDC that are at Ultra, and even a lot of the California festivals, even like Cross, down in San Diego, that's right there on the harbor. Different crowds of people go to these kind of ones because there's a lot of people that just live in San Diego. They're like, fuck it, let's go to the music festival. And
you just blew my mind with your festival knowledge. You came out like I was taught. You just referenced like 4 or 5. I didn't realize you were such an expert here.
Let's just say 2012 and 13 and 14, I was a big time festival, worldwide festival grinder. Went to a bunch in Australia, went to a couple in Europe, went to a bunch of them in America. Went to
you have a favorite?
Favorite one's EDC for sure.
Really?
Oh okay. Yeah, it's awesome. It's so nice. It's like it goes till 6 a.m. It stays warm. You go there, like it's just everyone's really nice. There's so much room. It's so spread out. Yeah, it's great. I love it. You don't have to. It's not Belgium. I mean, fucking. It's,
not Belgium.
That transportation's awful there, man. Like it's not my favorite. People speak English. I mean, it's great, man. No shuts up if you don't speak English, but like, I'm trying to communicate with people, man, and.
Yeah, I also find, as silly as it might sound, the over-the-top like attire that most people wear. It kind of puts you in a goofy mindset. You're like, oh, I'm wearing a hot, pair of shorts with this bright green, checkered shirt, and you don't take yourself so seriously when you're doing that.
Hold on. Let me get my festival. Let me get my festival attire on now for this discussion. Yeah, it's true. I mean, listen, it's hard to take. It's hard to feel serious. You're wearing the husky spirit hood, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, this used to be I used to wear this thing all the time. I haven't worn it in a while, so I just had to put it on for old time's sake. Oh, I miss this thing, man. Whew, this is like
you haven't worn it in a while, yet it's conveniently sitting 5 feet behind you.
Well, I mean, it hangs on the wall right there for decoration. I've had a lot of good memories in this spirit hood, man. I've never seen someone put a spirit hood on and have a bad time. Anytime you want to make someone happy, you give them this, it makes them happier. So, chat, give me a couple questions here for Assani, my friends. Let's see. How much volume does a typical DFS pro play in a year, Tim F. asks?
It depends on the pro. I mean, obviously, the super high stakes guys play in the millions for sure. I don't know, like Sahil, I don't know his exact amount, but I would guess like over 10 million per year for sure. And then there are pros who, you can enter under $1 million and still make a living off of it for sure, per year. So it just ranges by quite a bit. My biggest day ever was, I think, like a random NFL Sunday where I had like 350 or 400K down.
That's it?
That's it.
Seems like a pretty good number to have in play.
I think
crazy.
It was like week 4 or 5 of the NFL season, and it was way too much for my bankroll. I have bankroll management issues. My friends have lectured me on this quite a few times already.
400.
We had like last I don't know, spring sometime when I was in Toronto. We had like a sit down with Assani where everyone lectured me on how I need to cut back on the taking crazy shots or else I'm going to go broke. It's
Listen,
had a
man,
little bit of an effect, but I still have a.
if you ever go broke, I'll figure out a way. I'll do whatever I can to help you get back on your feet, man. You got at least one guy that's gonna help you out, man. I got you for that's forever. I don't care what. You changed my life with the Playboy Mansion trip, so whatever I can do to help out in the future, if it ever happens, it ain't gonna happen. But if it does,
I think my main problem is like having money is great, obviously, but like I've been grinding 1-3 at the Win, living off the free food they bring to the table, and I still was having a good life at that time. Like if I had to go back to that, I wouldn't be happy, but if that happens, fuck it, I'll do it. Like it doesn't matter that much. I'm not afraid of going broke. My tune will change, I'm sure, when I have a family and everything, and it's easy to say now, but right now, yeah, I just don't care that much.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I'm the same way. I just don't I'm like my life's good no matter what. I had a lot of money, no money. I mean, life's as good as you try to make it be. So just because you have more money or don't have money, it's all about the way that your outlook is on things. And yeah, I mean, you're living in San Diego right now. It's hard to really feel too much unhappiness. You're having a good time. You got a lot of friends in your life, and you got a lot of the future's looking pretty good for you, I'd say. So.
I forget if we talked about this last time on the podcast. I've definitely had a conversation about this before with quite a few people. But like going from having $5K in the bank to $100K in the bank is like everything. Going from having like $100K in the bank to $1 million in the bank doesn't change much unless you like want to be at the club popping bottles every night. But if you're like a normal person who just doesn't care about those type of frivolous, spendings, you find you're doing the same exact thing. You're doing slightly nicer versions of the same thing, but your life is very much the same. And I think my friend Cy Watson, is that his last name, I think, had a cool tweet. He won I might have shared this story last time I was on. I really don't remember. But he had a tweet that was like, if everyone in the world could experience how little difference it makes to go from, being middle class to filthy rich, the world would be a better place. Because people would stop putting so much importance on it, thinking that like, oh, if I just got that, my life would be happy. And they would actually focus on making their life happy as is.
I definitely agree. I believe Cy recently tweeted he thinks he's up a lot of money against me at 1020p on Bovada. So, I don't think that's true, Cy, by the way, if you're watching this. And I'm pretty sure that I'm definitely going to be up money on you if there's any way to track it. But that's okay. Whatever, man. You can think that if you'd like, Cy. It's okay. But
Bovada's anonymous, right?
What do you say?
Bovada, are they still anonymous?
It's still anonymous, correct? Yeah.
So he's saying, so you don't even know when you're actually playing. There would be no way of proving this in any way.
Right. Him, me, and Stealth Monk. Apparently, I mean, I don't know. Like, apparently, we've been playing a lot against each other. And we wouldn't know we're playing against each other. So yeah, it's. Ivan says that's why the Nordic is it Nordic? You mean Nordic, Poppy? That's why the Nordic countries are the happiest in the world, because people don't obsess with money. Why is that? Ivan? Can you specify that? Cody says, are any DFS touts frauds? Al Smizzle, Eric Crane, Matty K, etc.
I don't know about any of them specifically. I mean, in general, it goes, when you're in a boom age, when there's a ton of money to be made, the people who are coaching usually aren't the best, because the people who are the best are just profiting a ton amount of money and don't want to coach. I actually had a conversation this weekend with JM to the Win, I think his name is, on Roto Grinders. He's one of the coaches there, one of the best baseball minds, and he was talking to me about possibly joining the Roto Grinders staff in terms of coaching.
Ooh.
I said maybe I'll be interested in like 2 years when the games get tougher and I feel like I don't have as big of an edge, but there's very little incentive to do it. When the games can be this profitable. So in general, like, I think most of the people who have a good reputation and have, in coaching, they're legit. And if you're a beginner, you can definitely learn a lot from them. But I don't think like a mid-stakes player can turn into a high-stakes player by getting coaching. I think you have to just figure out shit on your own, But for beginners, I definitely think the majority of touts that are like the well-known and have a reputation, I think you can trust them.
So if people are wanting to get into this NFL season, where do you suggest they start in terms of, and maybe they play DFS before they want to try to get better? Where do you think they should look to try to get better at?
You're not going to like the people out there are not going to like my answer to this. Like it's when you start off and say you deposit $100 and you're just grinding super low stakes, the most important things you can do are hunt for all the bonuses. If the site's offering a bonus, you need to take advantage. Game select, scour the lobby, look over, take all the guys play. Now sites like FanDuel have made rules that prevent pros from you can only play a certain number of contests $10 and below. So most of the pros tend to only play $10 and not the 1, 2, or 5s. So if you're getting into DFS, take all the fish at the $1 or 6. Really game select well. Take advantage of the bonuses. Do all the little things. Play the slates that you might not want to. Instead of lineups lock at 1 o'clock on a Sunday and you just watch football for the rest of the day. Take a look at all the small stakes. Overlay hunt. All those little things really, really add up and make a ton of difference as you build your bankroll. In terms of if you're literally if you have never played DFS and you want to get into it on week 1 of NFL because it just seems like fun, put $10 on and play the small tournament. Play the Millionaire Maker for $3. You almost certainly won't win because there's 2 million people entering and you have no shot. But you'll at least take a look at the pros lineup, see what's going on, see how it works, and it's have a good time with it. I think both sites now have realized that in pushing you can make a lot of money off DFS angle, that was a big mistake, and there was a lot of blowback because of that. And now they're kind of pushing the fun aspect. And I would say the same thing. Put $20 on, and most people out there can afford to lose $20 if it means having a good time. And I would approach it from that mindset. Put $20 on, have a good time. If you want to take it really seriously, then go for it. I absolutely encourage people to do it. But I was pretty much a broke-even player for the first 6 months of my career, and that's having come from a poker background. So you're not going to, instantly start making a ton of money. There is a learning curve. It takes a lot of hard work, and if you want to be profitable, you got to put in the hours for sure.
Dare I say GTO? It's reversed on the camera, guys, but it says GTO is a way of life on the shirt. So I like that answer. Ask Assani if he listens to any podcast on DFS.
For when I'm doing baseball, for example, I like to listen to one general overview podcast, whether it's the Roto Grinders podcast or Fantasy Insiders or whoever, or Fantasy Labs also I think does one. I don't really I don't have a favorite one. I just like starting my day a lot of days with podcasts that'll break down the slate, talk about the pitching options and the teams with the highest team totals and stuff like that. And then from there, I really dive into it myself. But no, there's not one podcast above the rest I would recommend. I think in general, there's not one secret site out there that just has way better info than the rest. There's a handful of them, and most of them are all pretty good, and you just want to take a general consensus of them. You want to listen to all the opinions, and if you go to 4 or 5 different sites and almost all of them recommend one player, that player's probably a pretty good play. Groupthink is the way to go.
Dax Prescott, good first week quarterback, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. I actually have not followed preseason nearly well enough. I mean, I know Romo got hurt, so but yeah, I've been caught up. I've been playing baseball and focusing on that. So I can't comment too much on who are the week 1 sleepers or anything like that just yet.
I don't think he's a sleeper. Let's put it. I think he's not a sleeper. I think everyone should probably. I think everyone should probably have him on their team, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean I don't.
I think it's good for the pros that both sites put out their pricing 4 weeks in advance, but it's kind of stupid just because there's so many guys like that who are min priced or whatever who are going to be great options that it's almost too easy to make a lineup because there are too many great options. I just think week 1's kind of dumb because of that.
Really? They don't alter them at all leading up to the 4 weeks? It's just that's what it is no matter what?
because they want to be able to put their contests out a month before the season starts so they can start getting signups. And once people make their teams, you can't then change the prices. So there will be several cases of big injury news, which drastically changes, the landscape of, and the values of some of these cheap guys, and they just all become must plays.
Right, that seems really fucking dumb. I mean, I guess that's where the GPP talent comes in, though, because obviously, guys, everyone's going to have a Dax Prescott, or everyone will have a backup running back. If some running back elevates to number one on the depth chart on one of the teams, then everyone's going to have those guys. So that's where the GPP masterminds strategy comes into play.
It's probably another reason why I'm getting more into GPPs. I think cash games have a very limited skill cap. You're picking the team that's projected to score the highest. And while that's an interesting exercise, there's not much to it. You literally just, look for the highest scoring guys. It's not that hard to teach someone how to look for the highest scoring guys. You learn what sources to trust, you learn to have a healthy respect for betting lines, you learn to be able to analyze different stats, and then you're great at it. Whereas GPPs, because the actual value of a player it's not just his value, but it's also his projected ownership percentage in relation to his value. It's just a much more nuanced game. And everyone knows Dak Prescott's going to be a good play, but will he be a good play in relation to his ownership percentage is a question I don't know. I haven't really looked into yet. So yeah, that's one reason I'm more challenged by GPPs almost.
I never thought I'd say this in my entire life, Assani, and I'm hesitant to say it, but you might be right that tournaments sound more appealing than cash games when it comes to this, when you put it that way. And I would say it does not apply to poker. Let's not get carried away, anyone's poker fan. But when you put it like that, it does kind of sound more fun. It sounds it sounds pretty challenging that way. It sounds more fun. It sounds like more to kind of figure out. And I don't know. I mean, surprisingly, it kind of makes me want to play the tournaments rather than the cash games in DFS.
Similar to poker, there's just a huge luck element, and if you're not good at dealing with variance, you're going to hate tournaments because you just go months on end without winning anything, and then you bank a few in a row, and then everyone thinks you're the greatest when you're winning, and yeah, it's very similar to poker in that regard. But like you said, it's different than poker in that tournaments are actually a bit more nuanced in DFS than cash games are, and there's more things to think about. Yeah.
What do you got planned here coming up for the next couple months in terms of life and yeah, I guess your life, man? You staying put in San Diego, just gonna be grinding NFL, waiting for NBA to get started?
I basically plan 1 month at a time, and past that, I don't really know. For the next month, I have this weekend. My sister's gonna come into town and visit, and then the next weekend, I'm going to Nashville. DraftKings and Roto Grinders have their NFL Week 1 party in Nashville. I'll be at that. And then I'm going to Maryland for Steven Silverman's wedding. Steve and Morgan are getting married. Which, by the way, shout out to both of them. But I have to say, if Morgan happens to be watching, which she obviously isn't, while we were on the bachelor party, Morgan texted Steve with ideas for hashtags for their weddings. You know how you have a hashtag when you do things? Yes. And their names are Steven Silverman, Morgan Osborne. And we couldn't really think of one that was good. And I came up with Morgasm, which I think is fucking amazing. But she kind of vetoed that. And I thought that was pretty good. I can understand why she didn't like it. I totally can understand her perspective. But from a guy's perspective, I thought I had the nut suggestion there.
Could be still in play. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, what's the next Playboy Mansion party?
I would guess NFL, but they haven't put it out yet.
October, I think.
Yeah. I don't think it's. I could be wrong, but yeah.
I feel like I've heard the date from a specific person before. I just can't remember what the date I've been told was for FanDuel, the next FanDuel Playboy Mansion.
It's not the website yet, though, right? They haven't actually announced it.
I don't think so. Not sure. Yeah.
But I think they're contractually obligated to do it 4 times a year, or they've rented it. They have a deal with so there's definitely going to be quite a few of them.
Trying to get on that porn star grind again, Poppy.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get on that one came up, man. She came up a lot. She's a rising star in the.
Oh, I didn't know who you were talking about at first. Oh yeah.
She's like a rising star. She
tweeted tweeted at her. Did she respond to that? I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah, I think she responded to it. Yeah.
That was the girl. Yeah, so like that was the girl I asked to play beer pong, and then like kind of just blew us off and like had other shit to do. She like came up and started to play, and then was like, "Oh, my friends were calling me. I had to go away." Yeah.
Yeah, she. I think the game just didn't start in time. You were trying to find a partner or something, and she was just a little bit bored, I suppose, and she went into the pool But yeah, now she's this potential star potential there in the adult entertainment industry, Poppy. So I mean, I don't know. You're doing something right.
Is she rising up the ranks? Is she?
Yeah, man. Yeah, she's like insane. Remember when were you there when I asked her what kind of scene she did, and she said everything?
No, I was not there for that conversation.
Oh yeah, I think you were finding a partner by the pool. Yeah, I was like, oh, so what kind of stuff do you do? She's like, ask me a thing. I was like, gangbang. She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, she's telling the truth. Story checks out. She's yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Her name's Kat Dior, guys. If you guys want to go look her up, go ahead, look her up. Nice, nice kind girl. You can go Google her, and yeah, I can't watch that stuff for a while, but
future podcast guest, perhaps.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Go for it.
So I sent her a DM, and I said, "Hey, me and my friends met you at the FanDuel Playboy Mansion party back in June, and we talked on Twitter a couple times. But I do a podcast, and it's mainly poker podcast. But I'd like to start having more people outside of the poker world on. And it's a lot of guys. It's mainly men audience who could be new fans of yours, something like that. Would you be interested in coming on the podcast?" Nothing.
Really, honestly, like that would be because a lot of dorky poker players watch a ton of porn, I assume, and that would be a perfect way for her to gain new fans. Just no response.
I'm gonna try again. I'm not giving up yet, but
when we go to the next Playboy Mansion, you can message her and tell her you're going to be there. And if we're going to do a Playboy Mansion podcast, she should be on.
Fuck it, I'm in, man. I'm in. You want to leave the people with any last one piece of wisdom?
One piece of wisdom? That's a tough question, man. I don't know. You gotta lead me in one direction here, or give me a topic.
One piece of life wisdom. Feedback. One piece of life wisdom. One piece of DFS wisdom.
They're both kind of my first thought is just hard work, like to say something about hard work, but that covers both equally. I mean, it's very, for the longest time in poker, I played the victim card. I thought I wasn't having the success I wanted to have because I was running poorly or because of this and that. And then I actually was introduced to all the great poker players, and I realized, no, actually, things have turned out exactly as they should. I did not make as much money as I wanted to because I wasn't working as hard as these guys, and I wasn't, doing all the right things. And yeah, just focus on the work, man. Focus on stop focusing on excuses and focus on the hard work is my biggest piece of wisdom I could give.
No excuses.
No excuses. I like that.
Yeah.
The echo's back. Let's wrap it up. If you guys want to follow Assani on Twitter, it's at Assani Fisher. Where else are you at, Assani? Is that it?
Twitter, yeah, that's the only social media I'm on. I've been told multiple times I need to get on Instagram, and I intend to do that, but for now, I'm not on there yet. Just Twitter.
All right, guys. Everyone in the chat, thank you for all the comments. I'm listening to myself give feedback, so I'm a little distracted right now. But we'll be back tomorrow night, set 8 p.m. Eastern with Jonathan Bales. Feedback? What are you doing? And that's it. Assani, thanks for coming on the podcast. I'm listening to myself. It's crazy. It's tripping me out right now. Okay, the robots are taking over. I don't know. This is insane. We gotta wrap it up. All right, let's wrap it up. See you guys later. Adios. Peace out. Much love.